Your reasons for listening to the show, well, those are your own. But just keep in mind that the views, information, or opinions expressed on the Tuddle Daily Podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of our sponsors. Yeah, it's called free speech, people. Nobody's forcing you to listen.
Get ready for your daily dose of Tuddle.
The all-time greatest intern/producer we've ever had, of course, Tuddle. Tuddle in Florida.
From the Hobo Fish Camp, it's the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
No wonder nobody likes you, Tuddle. Everything's a goddamn debate.
Hey, how is everyone doing today? Hopefully you had a great day. Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Tuddle Daily Podcast. There's a couple of ways you can get a hold of me. You can email me, Tuddle, that's Tuddle with two D's, Tuddle, @gmail.com, or you can leave me a voicemail, 407-270-3044. As I sit here in my makeshift studio that is just sitting idle, it's a makeshift studio for a reason, because this is where I do my live stream now that I got the internet. Trying to get that board, and once I get that board, it'll be good. And then I was like, yes, that's the last piece. And then the computer. This is the second computer now, and I don't want anybody to think like I'm talking bad about Vulture or not. No, this is not Vulture's fault at all. It's my fault. It's my fault because I'm destined to be cursed. I'm destined to just have things just get thrown at me. Like, nothing can be easy in my life. It's just, and I gotta admit, a lot of it is probably because of my own doing. Like, a lot of my hardships and stuff is because of my own doing. But this computer, now not working again. And like I said, it's not anything that Vulture did. I'm sure that this equipment is perfectly fine. Because you could have given it to anybody else, and guess what? It would have worked. It would have worked. And I just don't get it. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in stuff like that. But it's just like, it just seems like I'm getting kicked in the balls. It's like just a constant. Every day, wake up, get ready to be kicked in the balls about something. And you know what the sad thing is that I almost kind of deserve it, because guess what? I keep doing it. You know how if you got a body part that's hurting you and you're like, Doc, it hurts when I do this, and the doc says, stop doing that. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and keep getting the same results, whose fault is that? That's yours. But you know what? At the same time, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, and that's why I'm going to keep on doing it, because I'm a real man, I guess. You know, real men are stupid, because real men make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And this is just a sad attempt at a segue to kind of talk about my first story of the day. Is this guy. You know, what happened to the good old days where men went out and built stuff? Men went out and provided. Men went out and did this and that. Gave the spouse and the children shelter, water, food. And then, you started getting all the amenities. You used to start to get all the cherished things out there. But men don't even do that anymore. Men are out there trying to break world records with their toddlers in a stroller.
Based on that yawn, you wouldn't know that 6-month-old Greta Holcomb is one half of a team that just shattered a world record.
Most of the time, she just chills in there. She loves it.
Her dad, Rob, breaking the world record for fastest mile while pushing a stroller.
And that right there is a prime example of why all the other men in all the other countries, let's say Russia, China, India, any of the ones where they got a lot of male machismo, are all like, what's going on with the Americans? This is a stay-at-home dad. The stay-at-home dad is breaking world records because I guess he used to be a track star. He's going to push his little baby around a track to try to break a record. Well, what does that do? What does that do at all? You might be able to get some sponsorship, but it's not going to last very long. We are doomed. We are doomed as men here in the United States. And I'm a lot apart to be blamed for this whole mess.
This last time I saw her legs kicking, and I think it was just her way of telling me, like, Dad, you got to go.
Now, that was a baby probably getting motion sickness. That was a baby like, what the hell's going on? I was in this nice, comfortable womb for 9 months. It was great. Started crying as soon as I got out of there. I started liking you guys, and now you're using me. You're using me as a pawn to get famous. You're using me as a pawn to get TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook famous. Suck it, Zuckerberg. You lost like $200 billion. You deserve it.
Rob and Greta crossing the finish line of a Tampa Bay track at 4 minutes, 52 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Just to make it even better, it had to be a Florida man. Just had to be a Florida man out there pushing around the stroller. I mean, look, this is not a bad thing when it comes to Florida man stories. This is actually really good. This is actually something pretty positive compared to meth heads getting carjacked while on their way to an abortion clinic and then going to a AA meeting. Yeah, this is way better. This is so much better for the image of Tampa Bay and St. Pete.
They were all cheering and screaming, having a good time, and so I heard all that. I just kind of soaked it all in.
This attempt, Rob's third. High winds making him miss the record by fractions of a second on his first 2 tries. And then you throw in the added weight from his teammate, Greta, at 15 pounds, and the stroller itself, 25 pounds, meaning Rob's pushing a total of 40.
What do you run without the stroller and without Greta?
So my PR is a 416.
For this record to count, the stroller has to be commercially available, and all 3 wheels have to stay on the ground at all times throughout the run.
I wonder if they got like instant replay. Could you imagine this guy just shattered the record? He endangered his baby by taking these tight turns. And this is almost like a NASCAR race. It's like, you got to go to the shop first. We got to make sure all 3 wheels stay down. We got to make sure that you're going to make it through all the post-race inspections. Just to get told, no, you cheated. It doesn't stand. I bet this guy, I hope he doesn't take it out on his baby because the baby's just laying there. Baby's just a counterweight. Matter of fact, the baby doesn't even know what the hell's going on. It's just can't wait to get back to suck on mom's nipple.
Which means the turns were the hardest part.
A lot of the practicing I did wasn't with my daughter inside of it. Just because I'm running super fast around the track.
I wonder if they make a Hans device. Do you think they actually put a Hans device on this baby? If you don't know what a Hans device is, it actually helps you from your neck popping forward. Dale Earnhardt Sr., he hated the Hans devices, and he didn't wear one. Look what happened to him at Daytona. But also at the same time, babies' skulls, babies' just bone, spine, necks, they're so pliable. It's like silly putty. You can't even hurt a baby. So, yeah, you know what? I take that back. I say go into the turns. Do not even lift. And if the baby gets into an accident, that's, you know what? Rubbing is racing. Baby will be fine.
But the 35-year-old says that hard work was worth it.
You got to celebrate with champagne. What did Greta's celebration look like?
She celebrated with a glass of the house white, as we call it.
Milk?
Yes.
Rob saying that you don't need to break any records to celebrate getting out there and putting in some time on the track.
The biggest message and the reason I run is to inspire others, get out there and get moving in whatever capacity.
Got a great guest lined up thanks to my producer, Vulture, David Frazier. They call him the Preacher Man. David, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
Look, I'm having all types of problems with the computer system. I'm trying to advance my life here, trying to build something new, and it just, things just aren't happening for me right now, David. But Before we get into the interview here, David, tell my audience, my supporters of the Tuddle Daily Podcast, how they can check out any of the content, your podcasts, and how they can find you.
Yes, sir. So they can find me first on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon podcast as well, just to name a few. They can also follow me on my Instagram at Frazier Chronicles. They can also follow me on Facebook as well, Frazier Chronicles. And they can also check out my website, www.frazierchronicles.com, to listen to podcasts, purchase merchandise, and to send emails. So those
David, what are some of the things that you like to talk about? Like if I am, new, I'm coming across the podcast, like I'm on iTunes and I'm just searching, I'm on one of the podcasts and it suggests, oh, you gotta check out David Frazier Chronicles here. And I'm new. Like, what are some of the things I'm going to get to hear you talk about as a supporter, a downloader, a listener? What am I going to be able to check out?
Yes. So you can check out different content as far as like some of the content that I have put out have been about just getting better, being a better person, building better relationships. And there are some things as far as politics goes that talks about different types of racism and things of that nature. So I would say it's just to name a few, it's just kind of like some political things, some life things to kind of better yourself. So that's what I would say.
David, I was gonna talk. I'm gonna probably talk about this coming up on my show. But speaking of race and stuff, like, what did you think? Do you think Whoopi Goldberg like crossed any line? Because a lot of people are upset about her when she was talking about how the Holocaust, it wasn't about race because both sides were white. I know that I'm kind of paraphrasing there a little bit, but I kind of agree with her a little bit. Like it is a terrible thing that happened. Why are people so up in arms about what Whoopi Goldberg had to say?
I think, and I want to say, it's because of what we're taught. When you're in school, you're taught about the Holocaust and how bad the Holocaust was and things of that nature. So when you think of the Holocaust, especially when you're thinking about what you were taught as far as the Holocaust goes, you would come off as saying, oh, that was the wrong thing to say, Whoopi Goldberg. You shouldn't have said nothing like that. But when you look at it in hindsight and you studied it for yourself, you start realizing like,
she's right. It wasn't about race. It was about religion. It was a lot about religion and what some people believed in. There is a big difference.
Right.
Besides, religious genocide and ethnic genocide. There is a big difference, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes, big difference.
And people are going on at her pretty hard, and I just don't understand how you could be upset. I know a lot of people won't agree with what I have to say, but how can you be mad at somebody when she is 100% without a doubt right? The Holocaust was not about race.
Right. It goes into that again, when you're taught something and you just kind of, again, the school, you're taught something and you don't really go and study it for yourself. You take it for what someone told you, not for what you have studied. So it'll come back as to get upset about it. It really would.
David, now, I don't want to be one of those white guys that says, oh, man, I got a lot of black friends and stuff. I mean, I think that happens a lot. But, like from my observations as well, too, I mean, you look at a lot of stuff. Why is there a lot of animosity? Could it be because the comment that Whoopi Goldberg made, because she's African-American, commenting on the Holocaust? Could that be why it's such a big issue? Because there are some things between the African-American community and the Jewish community as well, too. There's some stuff there. And I think it's kind of stupid, but it is there.
Yes. And it has to be, and I'm gonna take it for what it is, and I'm gonna be as real as possible. I think it has more to do with her being a black individual, African American, more so than if a Jew would have said it. If somebody who was of a Jew nationality would have said, it probably wouldn't have came off as harsh or would not have been looked at the same way. But because somebody who's Black, African American says it, then it's like, oh, we have to jump on this. We have to get this out and make it more public than what it really is. So that's how I take it, and that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. David, I would love to get into some other topics that are going on right now. David, I would love to hear your opinion about the pandemic and stuff. So you got to be careful now with podcasts and stuff, talking about COVID and stuff. You see what's happening to Joe Rogan.
Yes.
What is your thoughts about that? About Joe Rogan being a little censored and stuff, or all these artists wanting to pull away from Spotify. I mean, I'm a complete supporter in the First Amendment, and it's always great to get opposing views. Do you think he's getting railroaded a little bit?
I think he's getting railroaded. Again, like you said, the First Amendment. I believe with the First Amendment, and I want to take the freedom of speech part on that. When you say freedom of speech, you're able, and you should be able to freely express yourself, freely express and say what you want to say. And when we look at it from an American point of view, we have so many people who are like in the government or on political stages who they can say what they want to say, but it's you better not say what you want to say kind of ordeal going on. So I think he's being railroaded. I think that most people don't even respect the opinion of other people. They just go off on a tangent. And if they believe one way and somebody says something, then it's like, I have to trump that with my belief and I have to go a further distance. So I believe he's being railroaded. Yes.
So do you think that there's been a lot of misinformation that has rhetoric that has been put upon minorities in the United States about, getting vaccinated and stuff? Like, David, you don't have to tell me if you don't. I mean, it's your own privacy, but I mean, did you get vaccinated?
I didn't get vaccinated, and I won't get vaccinated. And the reason I won't get vaccinated is because one,
Tuskegee Airmen. I knew exactly. No, I'm sorry, I had to throw that out there. Sorry.
That was one. But for me, I created a podcast on Frazier Chronicles talking about it way before vaccines were created and things like that. And I've always said I would never indulge in the vaccine. Why? Because I believe differently as far as vaccines. There are so many chemicals. Your body's made of chemicals. And I believe you have to be careful. I believe you really have to be careful with your body and what you put into your body. That's just my opinion. I think you have to be careful what you put into your body.
Right now on with me is David Frazier. David, so they call you the Preacher Man. So are you a preacher, or is that kind of like a handle that you have? Like, I mean, are you a minister? You can get up there and talk to the congregation?
Yes, I'm actually an ordained minister. Right now, currently, I am a kids pastor at a church. Actually.
That's good, though. I remember Sunday school. I think it is like the basis of, you got to get the kids at a very young age. I'm not saying indoctrinate them with it, but let people make their own choices. Also, at the same time as, just teaching them good common sense. Yes. Just how to be a decent person.
Yes.
What denomination are you guys, like? Baptist, Lutheran, like what kind of denomination?
So I'm more on the non-denominational side.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes. So that's where I'm at. I grew up in the Baptist church. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. I went to school actually at a Pentecostal school. That was Pentecostal and a Pentecostal denomination. So I kind of have a broad view on them all, if it makes sense.
All right. So I would like to get your thoughts about this, and I'll be upfront, okay? I respect everybody's like right. I don't look down. I don't judge in people that are religious or believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Do I know what it is? Because I'm into like scientific proof of things. And, like there's a lot of the people out there that will say, well, listen, I can't prove that God doesn't exist. So I can't say that he doesn't until I have proof, But, that's how I always look at it. If you're religious, that's good. That's great. If it makes you a better person, that's amazing. But what needs to happen in religion for people not to be afraid of it anymore or hate it? Because I really think the Catholic Church is kind of like screwing things up for you guys a little bit. The sexual abuse that goes on in churches and stuff. I think that needs to be completely wiped out. And if anybody is gonna like hide or shift people around that have committed crimes against children, I just think that they don't deserve to be tax-free exempt in our country to be able to do stuff like that. I don't know. I know that I'm going on, and I'm sure that you have had to deal with some stuff like that.
Yes. Yes, and I have. I've seen it as far as when people are talking about a court cases, things like that. So one thing that I did in my life that a lot of people don't know is I worked in a prison at a young age. I worked inside a facility, and I think when it comes, especially to this, when we're dealing with children and
trauma sets people back
yes,
so hard.
Yes, when we're dealing with that and we're seeing those things happen, who's holding a lot of these people accountable? You know what I'm saying? Because we're seeing it with like you said, the Catholic Church. It's going on in almost every religion, but the Catholic Church is always hit heavily because
they're the
of
biggest.
their belief system. The Catholic Church, you have a priest who's not married.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you think that would go away if the priests were allowed to be married? I've always had that thought, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I really think that if the men that were able to have a partner or get married, I think it would help out the horrible things that are going on. In my opinion,
I believe, and I'm gonna say this from my belief. I believe it could change. I'm gonna say it could. And the reason I'm explaining the could aspect real quick. The reason I say it could is because, again, that individual has to make a personal choice not to indulge with a kid, but to indulge with their significant other who they're married to.
Yeah, but also at the same time, you know what? Now thinking about it, I mean, if you are a heterosexual man and you're into a woman and you're getting married, you're not going to be interested in the kids. I mean, if you're a pedophile, you're just a pedophile.
Right. Exactly.
And how do you feel about, people is like, they try to lump homosexuals or gay or lesbian people as those are the people you got to look out for. They're the ones that want to molest kids. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're interested in other like same-sex partners that are adults. Pedophiles and homosexuals are completely different thing. And I think a lot of people get that twisted sometimes.
Yes. When we're talking about, I want to indulge on pedophiles real quick. Pedophiles are the type of people who are they're like mastermind. And when I mean by mastermind, they're trying to figure out how can they go and get over on a kid or get over on someone to get what they want out of the.
They look for the weak. They look for the weak.
Correct. And then when you're talking about the homosexual type of people, those people, and I'm gonna be real quick and honest. A lot of those people, to me, they're hurt. They're hurt. Somebody hurt them. Somebody did something to them. Because when you talk to them, and again, it goes back to being a part of ministry and different things. When you talk to a lot of them, you realize something happened to them.
What? Gay or lesbian?
Yes.
Okay.
Something happened to them that caused it, but a lot of times people don't get down to the root cause of what happened because a lot of they don't want to talk about the trauma. It's trauma to go back and live something. It's trauma.
No, I do agree. Trauma is very, very consequential when it comes to how somebody grows up. But so can I ask a question? Do you believe that some people are born gay, or do you believe that people are made gay?
I'm going to explain that one. I believe that no one is born gay, and I will explain.
Okay.
In that same instance, that's like saying people are born knowing how to have sex. They don't know how to have sex. It's a talk. It's something that's taught to them. Either they've seen somebody indulging in it and thought it was correct, or something again, something happened to them, because it's a talk. So everything that you do is talk. It's a talk lesson. In order for two people to have sex, you're taught how to have sex. If two
You
people,
don't believe in instincts, though? Like, it's you instinctually know. Like, I mean, us as human beings, we're nothing but animals, and animals know how to find a mother's nipple to be able to breastfeed. They're not taught that. They're not taught to find and latch onto a nipple.
okay, so when since you utilize the animal, then I'm going to go the animal direction. When you look at two birds,
Mm-hmm.
do two same-sex birds intermingle with each other? Meaning, do they have sexual? Do they have sex together?
No. They don't. But I mean, there
No.
have been like gay encounters when it comes to penguins. That's the only birds I've ever heard of.
No,
But they can't reproduce, though. No, they can't.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I think, and going back to, I'm just going to use my belief in God. I believe that God gives everybody free will. Everybody has a free will to believe how they want to and go the route of life the way they want to. But I believe that at some point there's a choice. Because see, I'm a heterosexual man. I love women. Right. So that's a choice. It's a choice for me to love women. Right. Unless somebody somewhere, some way, I guess it has to be like a mind flip or something. I don't know, some type of chemical imbalance to create me to not look at women and to focus on men or something. I mean, that's my belief, because I believe God gives you,
And I respect your belief. But all right, so okay, this is a question that I would have to have. Okay, so you don't agree with it, but but you would not go out of your way to discriminate against gay or lesbian, right? Homosexuals or lesbians, right?
Right. I won't go out my way.
No. So what I'm saying, though, is that do you believe that they have the right to be together? Do you think that they have the right to marry each other?
So when it comes to, again, my beliefs in the Bible and in Christ, because the reason I'm saying this is because I can't say I agree with it when God says not to do it. You see what I'm saying? So for me to say I agree with it says I go against what God created as far as the Bible goes and what Genesis talks
Well, God's
about.
in control of everything. He's infallible. He's supposed to make, he's in control of everything, correct?
Correct. And I'll say he's in control of everything, but again, he gives you that free will. So like me, I never go out. I would never, if I'm in the church, I'm gonna use church. If I'm in the church and somebody who's homosexual, whatever, and they come up and things like that, I would not discriminate against them or treat them any different from somebody who's a heterosexual. You see what I'm saying?
Let them come in and worship, right?
Come and worship because if me being a believer in Christ and me believe that Christ changes people's heart, changes man, changes woman's heart, right? It might be the sermon that day that might change their heart. Why that might be the sermon they need to get over the hump. You know what I'm saying? To change, to come out of where they're at.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if you can, cure it. I don't know. It makes me feel bad to say even cure it, but I mean, it's just they're into it. That's what they're into, and good for them. Like I have no problem with it. Like what about this? What about a gay couple adopting? Would you? Are you okay with that?
Okay, so just in my opinion, I feel like, again, earlier I talked about people who are part of the homosexual lifestyle. A lot of them are hurt. So if you're hurt, how can you love on someone and you don't really understand love? That's just my opinion. I don't think they should. And the reason I say that is because if I'm going to teach a kid how to love, if I'm going to teach a kid that if they want to be heterosexual, how can I teach you to be heterosexual and I'm not heterosexual? How can I accept your partner and things like that, but you might not accept my lifestyle? So those things come into play. I don't think people talk about them, but they do come into play.
I mean, I could definitely see that, but I mean, I just think it's something instinctual. It's like, I mean, cats can, give birth and reproduce after 6 weeks, as like 6 or 8 weeks that they're like, all right, they can reproduce. They didn't know, hey, me with this dude isn't going to do anything. It's instinctual. I don't know. I respect your opinion and stuff, and it seems like you respect the gay community. You don't hate on them. You don't discriminate on them. It's not like you're going out and physically harming them. No, you're a good guy, and there needs to be more people like you. But and like I said, it's your opinion and stuff. But you also respect the gay community as well too. One of the things I wanted to get into, what was your thoughts on the last president? And I mean, what do you think about Joe Biden right now? Because everybody's giving a Joe Biden a hard time about, and because they're all like, oh, it should be the best person for the Supreme Court. But Joe Biden, he made a promise. He wants to put an African-American woman in there. And I think that's a great thing. Well, first, two-part. We'd love to hear what your thoughts on Donald J. Trump, number 45, and then the controversy right now with Biden because he says he wants to put a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yes. So I want to talk about Donald Trump first, Donald J. Trump, and when my opinion on President Trump at the time and still to this day is I can respect President Trump, and the reason I say this is because if you are the type of person who is a racist individual, right? I'd rather know that. I'd rather know that because now I know.
You don't want no undercover racists. No, those undercover racists will sneak up on you. They will.
Right. I want the outwardly, the one that's going to let me know who it is. Because when you're dealing with
the flamboyant racist is what you're saying. To kind of like you want him to be way out there. You want him wearing the you want him and his chick wearing the rebel flag bikini and all that stuff. Yeah, you want to be able to spot him out and be like, yep.
Be
flamboyant
real.
Racist.
Exactly. Be real. Be who you say you are. Because in politics, everybody wants everything to be politically correct. And what is politically correct? There is no correct political way to do things. Be yourself. Be who you are is the correct way to be. Don't be something that you can't be because it's going to eventually come out. That's just that's how I look at it. It's eventually going to come out, whether it comes out in a speech, whether it comes out when you're upset, it's going to come out. And if people know that's who you are, guess what? They can't go back and say, well, you know what? I've always knew it, but I never knew he would come out and say it. So that's how.
So he was kind of like a shock comedian. He was like, man, it was kind of like Chappelle during his last special. It was like, man, did you hear what Chappelle said about the transgender?
Yeah.
Oh my God. They'd be like, man, Trump brought it, man. Trump was just like trying to be shocking, and he got it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's exactly how I look at it.
And what about the Biden thing, though? The Biden thing, I know that a lot of people, and it is the right wingers, but I mean, you know what? The liberals have become too liberal, though, at some point. So I'm kind of like, I don't support any of the politicians, by the way. I don't think they've had our best interest in hand in quite some time.
Right. So when it comes to Biden, President Biden, and him wanting to select the African American lady for the Supreme Court, I look at it like this, and there's people that are upset because they're like, well, what about selecting the most qualified, right? What about this? What about that? When I look at it, in this country, people are hired based off their color of their skin. So when we want to talk about qualified, then that means every job, not just the president, but every job, every company, corporation needs to go back and say, okay, did we hire the most qualified or did we hire people based off of race? And that's going to tell you the story about that culture of that job. Because a lot of people hire based off of race. They do that. It's been known for years and centuries because that's how America has ingrained itself into selecting people based off of race.
I can easily see that. David, before we go, I would like for you to tell my audience again how they can find out and check out all your content. But like, could you give us like, they call you the Preacher Man. Can you give us like a little like I don't know, like would it be bad for me to call it like a sermon or just like a little closing thought? To keep my audience's heads up a little bit, through these tough times. Maybe you can give like a little closing thought, like Jerry Springer used to do with his final thought. You can do that?
Yes, I can do that.
All right, here we go. So David, tell my audience and then just run right into it. Tell give us some words of wisdom.
Yes. So I'm David, aka Preacher Man, and you guys can find me on, again, iHeartRadio, search Frazier Chronicles, Apple Podcasts, search Frazier Chronicles, Instagram, Facebook. The name is Frazier Chronicles, and you'll be able to find it. But before I go, before we close, I just want to just give this everybody out there, your listeners and everybody across, some vital motivation to keep them up. And it comes from the text, comes from the Bible, comes from John 14:6. So if anybody's ever is out there listening, John 14:6. And this is from the new, reading from the NIV, which is the New International Version. It says, Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And what that means is basically, in order for a person to be saved, they have to go through the Son, who is Jesus Christ. And if you're out there and you're trying to find out, how do I believe? How do I keep going during these trying times? Trust Jesus in this. Trust him. If you doubt him, talk to him and watch him come through. Because we're all in this thing together. We're living in this life. We're all trying to figure out, where do we go? How am I going to make it through this week? How am I going to make it through the month? How am I going to make it through the year? With so much going on. And I just want to leave everybody with that one thought, to just trust in Jesus and he'll get you through it.
All right, David. I really, really appreciate that, my friend. And let's keep in touch, man. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. I didn't mean to put you on a spot at all, but unlike a lot of other people, we can have a civil conversation and discuss things without getting upset at each other. Isn't that kind of cool?
Oh, yes, sir. That's very great. Awesome.
All right, David. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, David. Have a great day.
And that's the show for today. Thanks for listening to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Hey, don't be a dickhead. Do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe to the show. Also, check out the Tuddle category at 315live.com. The Tuddle Daily Podcast is brought to you by Starfire Transport, StitchYouUp.com, and PocketPairClub.com. Special thanks to show producer Vulture and co-host Sirach. Show voiceover service is brought to you by JCVoiceover.com and The Little Cheese Show. Download and subscribe to The Little Cheese Show everywhere podcasts are found. If you want to help support the show, go to paypal.me/TuddleOnTheRadio. You have something you want to say? Tuddle@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 407-270-3044. To follow all Tuddle social media, go to Tuddle.net. That's Tuddle with 2Ds.net. Thanks again for all your support, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
I get ignorant in normal situations.
What you mean?
What the fuck you mean?
What are you talking about?
Nigga, what the fuck is you talking about?
Oh, shit.